We're on, are we?
We're on.
We're on.
Let's
Okay.
go.
Hopefully you're all in your tutor rooms right now, waiting for us, or in your classrooms. You will notice that Miss Christie and I are sitting quite closely together. Unfortunately for Miss Christie, she spent most of the last year in my company, and so there is no doubt that we are in each other's bubble. So that's why we're sitting like this without our masks on. We didn't really want to wear them in front of you, but to be fair, if she gets it, I've caught it, and vice versa. So morning. Just to say that obviously you'll know, because we've written to you and hopefully your tutors have spoken to, today's a National Day of Reflection. It marks the first sort of anniversary of the first lockdown, which I have to be honest feels like a lifetime ago, but it was a year ago today. I think what we want to sort of get over to start with is the fact that in this last 12 months, we've all had very unique experiences. Nobody can be absolutely certain that what they've lived through is what somebody else has lived through. You know, even down to simple things of, you know, does your house have a garden? Have you got outside space? All of those little things make a big difference. So it's really difficult to constantly think of other people like that, but that's what we're asking of you. That's why our focus is on empathy at the moment, which is imagining yourself as somebody else and what they're living through and giving them the benefit of the doubt. Because over the last 12 months, we've all suffered loss in some way or another. And it's not always big things. It could be a loss of an opportunity, loss of a football season, loss of a visit you were going to make to somebody, a loss of a holiday. For some of you, it'll be more real than that, because it's the loss of a job, maybe for your family, for your parents, and that's made life difficult and money's tight. That's something that lots of people have been through, but not everybody. Obviously, it could also be the loss of a person, and there are many of you sitting in the school now and in this room that have lost important people. And so today's an opportunity to think about that. Today's an opportunity to take a moment, take a minute or longer, just to stop and think about the losses we've all suffered. I don't want to talk too much about that, if I'm honest, and I've had to write things down. I never write things down, but I've had to write things down today so I don't forget. We're going to play a video which we asked your families and we asked the community to send us in a picture of somebody they'd lost to COVID in the last 12 months. Now, some did and some didn't. So there'll be some people missing from this. And I'm sure you may be sitting there thinking, why is my granddad not on there? Or why is this person not on there? Because I know they died from it. It purely be because nobody sent us their name or we haven't got a picture. It doesn't mean we're not thinking of them. It doesn't mean that you won't think of them. Okay, so. But the video that will come up it's a couple of minutes long, and it just reels the names off of people that we know have passed. So it's important that we think about those, but also that minute gives you a chance to stop and to reflect on what you could do moving forwards. Because it isn't always about being sad and looking at the past. It's also using this opportunity to go, what happens next? What happens next in your family? What happens next to you? What happens next in your life of opportunity? And what can you do to make a difference? We can't all be Sir Captain Tom Moore and raise millions of pounds. You know, it'd be lovely to think we could, but we can't. The reality is that it might be the smallest thing that you do which makes a difference to somebody else. It could be that somebody in your mum maybe, or an aunt, is struggling with something, and you just doing something without being asked gives them a bit of a lift. It could be that, you know, you've been frightened to join the football team or to try out for the production. The reality is that you should, and if you don't take those opportunities, it could only lead to regret potentially. So if during this time that's what you think about, that's great too, and don't think that it's always going to be about being sad. Sometimes it's about taking the opportunity to pause for breath and work out what happens in the future. And you know, we're teachers. It's about our jobs are about the future. Our jobs are about your futures. I think you need to think about the impact of the smallest actions you have and what that has on other people. Could you do something that feels kind instead of difficult? Could you understand that maybe that person's having a bad day and you need to do things differently? Video we're about to play, as I said, lasts just under 3 minutes. And at the end of that, we're going to carry on with the silence, and we'll mark the minute silence at that point. At the end of it, one of us will talk again. If you're finding it difficult and you need to step out of the class, then please do. Don't feel that you need to sit there in front of other people. Do step out. But I think probably now's the time, and it isn't an easy watch. Miss Christie and I have watched it, and it's incredibly sad, but it's also the right thing for us to do as a community. So hopefully the video will start now. I think you're muted.
Yeah,
there you go.
So the theme for this National Day of Reflection is #Unite in Memory, and we're so thankful to those friends and families who've sent through their photos of their loved ones, so that as a community we can share in their memories. And thank you to Miss Hutchinson for putting that together, because it really was really beautiful. Mr Goddard has already said and mentioned what an incredibly tough year this has been for everyone, as we've all gone through it and had our very own unique experiences. And we're going to take this time to reflect, obviously, and just to think about how aware you are of other people's circumstances, and what we can all do to support each other. Because we felt that actually today was an opportunity to talk about grief, really. We've had lots of people in the media of late talking about mental health, and it's become much more open in the way that people talk about it. And actually today is about remembering loved ones that have been lost, and with that comes grief. And undoubtedly we're all going to have to deal with that at some point in our lives, and some of us are dealing with it right now. And I tell you, grief sucks. It really sucks, because grief is a constant that plays on your emotions. And I think the best way that I can liken grief is to a piece of classical music. I was trying to think of a way of kind of thinking about it. It's a slow, quiet start to the song, the introduction, that overwhelming sense of sadness and despair as the music starts, and then suddenly it might be an increase in tempo and your heart starts beating really fast, and then it catches your breath and you can't breathe, and then the drums come, and when the drums arrive, then that's just the anger and the rage and the needing to shout and scream and cry. And that's the pain of grief. And then at the end, you're going to get the quiet. And that quiet is numbness. And then the denial that it's over. And then how do you actually deal with that numbness? And then this song is on repeat, and it just plays over and over and over again. And it catches you, grief. It's like this constant, and it catches you at the most bizarre times, and it really does become all quite consuming, and it's really heavy, and it's there like a blanket, a jacket that's around you all of the time, and you don't know which grief is going to arrive at which time. So it just kind of catches you, and it might be at 1 minute it's sadness and you're crying, and it might be something else that just suddenly appears and you're angry, and you have to learn to deal with that. But at the same time as having to deal with that grief, you've also got to get on with life, because you have to get up in the morning, you have to go to work, or you have to go to school, you have to meet deadlines, you have to deal with circumstances, you have the pressure of your work and what it is that you need to do. You have to support other people, you have to support your family, you have to support your friends, you have to be everything that you've always been, but suddenly have grief there in the background as well. And that's how I feel at the minute. And I don't know if you noticed in the video, but Del Christie was mentioned. And that's my dad. My dad died on Christmas Day. So the grief is real at the minute, and today was always going to be a tough day. But actually, I'm really proud to be sat here at the minute just celebrating. But I've felt grief before, but I can tell you that I've never felt grief like this before, at having lost a parent. So I was thinking about ways that I could talk about my grief that actually would be helpful and useful, because grief is going to be different for so many people, and people are going to react really differently to it. So I was trying to think about actually what might be helpful. And I'll tell you what I don't need and what I didn't need. I don't need sympathy. I don't need people feeling sorry for me that happened to my dad. I don't need people walking on eggshells, because I know some people feel quite uncomfortable around death, and then worrying about the fact that they're going to talk about dads. But that's okay, because dads exist and we can't stop talking about that. I don't need people making cheap jokes about dads. I definitely know that, and that way that sometimes that comes out really quickly and people make fleeting comments. Particularly students, I would say, amongst you, where you make comments about family members. They're just cheap digs that aren't needed, generally being unkind. And I don't need people avoiding me, or I don't need to be made to feel different, because my life is different now, and I need to be able to adjust to that in my own way. I'll tell you what I did need, and what I do need is I need understanding and I need empathy. And I need people to understand that it's okay not to be okay. And I have bad days, but I also have a lot of good days. And I just need people to understand that. I need people checking in. I need my friends and family checking in, and people around the building who just stick their head into my office. I need people being kind, and I need people to give me space so that I can grieve in my own way. I need people to make me laugh, to send me funny little quirks. Okay, I need people to just be there when I need them to be, and kind of sense the moment. I need the support and love of my family and friends more now than I think I have done ever. But I've also needed reminders to look after myself, because I can't look after my family and I can't do my job properly if I'm not actually looking after myself. And just those little reminders via a text message or a phone call to say, are you looking after yourself? And to take the time and space that I've needed. And I've needed to share in memories with families and friends to make sure that my dad, for me at the minute, is still there, because grief is not a race to be won. I'm not going to sprint through this. And those of you who have been through it or going through it know that this is not a race to be won. It's the rhythm within the music, and that in time, the music is up and down massively at the minute. But I know that in time, the music will repeat less often, and it will get quieter, and it will become less overwhelming. I don't expect the grief to leave me. I'll just learn to live with it in different ways. And I hope in time that my grief will become my comfort and my memories will bring me joy. I know I've got lots of things to look forward to. And I know my dad would want me to be looking forward to the things that I have in my future, because my future is still very bright. And he'd want me to make the most of that with my family and my friends. So although now, at this moment in time, things are really tough, I know that I'm going to do that for him.
That's quite a remarkable thing to sit through, I have to say. Hearing Miss Christie speak. Give me 2 seconds just to get myself together. There is no doubt that lockdown 1 and lockdown, I'm going to call it 2, and I think it's 3. The 2 big lockdowns we've had have been very different for each of us. For me personally, lockdown 1 was busy. There were people in the community not well, and some people passing away, but they weren't close to me. They weren't next to me. They weren't friends. They weren't the mums and dads of friends. And in this lockdown, it's different. And I guess that sort of goes back to how each of our experiences are unique. In this lockdown, you know, one of my best mates lost their dad. That's tough. That's tough to see them go through. You will have noticed at the end of the video, Mr. Simpson was there, Alan Simpson. Now, for some of you, he was the grumpy old man who moaned at you for not doing the right thing, for being on the AstroTurf and everything else. Now, for me, he was my friend, and therefore it makes it different. It makes it different to deal with for me. For you, he was somebody you saw at school, and probably somebody that you didn't really talk to. But I talk with kids. I've employed most of his family, and so it feels different. It feels different to someone. It's okay that it feels different. It's okay that this one's been harder for all of us. But I do want to come back to the hope in this that Miss Christie spoke about. This is a chance for us all to refresh and renew, and to make promises to ourselves and other people to do better in the future, to be better versions of ourselves, to take opportunities, to be kind, to be nice. That's what we need. That's what we need as a community, as a school, and I think that's probably as a world. So it's your chance to do something with that. It's your chance. So take this opportunity to be a better version of yourself if you can, and to make those people in your life that are still with us proud, and those people you've lost proud too. So let's make the most of the next term at least, and then beyond that.
So just a little final thing, because no doubt there are lots of you that might want to express how you're feeling in different ways and don't necessarily want to do it in a verbal way. In the assembly hall, we've just put up some boards with the hashtag Unite in Memory, and there's just different boards in there. So there's a board for reflections, there's a board where you could put messages to loved ones, there's a board about hope and what your hope is for the future, and there's a board for Mr. Simpson. As you walk into the assembly hall, there are some cutouts of shapes some pens and some pins. So if at any point during the remainder of the day, and we'll leave it up for the week, you do want to go and express yourself in some way, or go and write a message and put something onto one of those boards, we'll collate all of your thoughts, we'll take pictures, we'll tweet out, we'll do whatever we need to. But it's a space for you guys to just go, anyone, staff, students, where you can just go and just share and express. And for now, it's just an opportunity for you to just reflect with your friends and your teachers in your classes. And remember, Mr Goddard said about being kind, and the message down in the unicorn wing, empathy, is being able to walk in someone else's shoes. You don't know what people have gone through. So let's all be the support that we need for each other as we move forward from today. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.